You ready?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order on Monday, July 1st, 2024, 6 p.m. here at the town hall. And before I start, I'd like to welcome Anna Higgin as our new select person. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So if anybody doesn't know, that's Anna. So we now back in the class. Great.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we need a motion to adopt the agenda, and there's two additions. 4A will be the animal control contract that we received, and we received a rate permit. So somebody make a motion to accept the agenda as amended. We have second. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We have the minutes of the regular meeting of June 17, 2024. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes as presented? Good guys, now. If not, somebody make a motion to accept the minutes. So.
Second.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, good. We have the dog incident in the village. We have the animal control officer here. Can you hear us?
No, you are on the mute.
You're
Yeah, I
muted.
can hear you.
All right, I guess you want to start the meeting and explain the whole thing?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Explain the situation.
There appears to be a lag in the communication.
Well, maybe you should hear you better or something.
Joe was wondering if you could kind of explain the situation and what happened and the facts that you found.
Sure. Let me just minimize this a little bit. So during my investigation, I was talking with Barbara, who told me about how the incident happened, that, you know, that she had her dog off leash, and that this dog, the larger dog, came around the corner. There was no one there, but there was a leash dragging behind it, and it ended up attacking her dog. I did speak to a witness that they gave me. He didn't actually see it, but he heard it. He said he heard yelping for 1 or 2 minutes. He talked with the reporting party, which was Barbara, and he said the dog did seem hurt, but you know, he didn't know the extent of what had happened, and he felt like the other dog surprised her dog. Then I was talking with Barbara and Brian on June 21st. And when I was talking to Brian, who is Wolfgang's owner, he said that he did not witness it. He heard no, 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 and yelping and snarling. He didn't see it happen because of the stone wall was between him and the dog. And he said that his wife was behind him. So that indicates to me that the dog was not even in visual contact with the owners. I understand accidents happen with the other dog, Mikey, who is an attacking dog. That accidents happen. However, the owners did have him on leash, and he ended up pulling out of their restraints and getting away. And I also learned that the town had issued the Zanders a letter that said the dog needs to be on leash within the town. So through the investigation, the facts are that Mikey, the attacking dog, was on leash. However, he did pull away from his owner. the other fact is the town issued the Xanders a letter stating their dog has to be on leash, which they were not in compliance with the day of the attack. I also learned that no one really witnessed what had happened, and not being in eyesight. And after meeting Mikey personally, he did not show any interest in me. There was a concern about him being aggressive. When I was at the property, he acted like a dog that would bark when someone shows up, but he didn't try, biting at me or anything like that when I was getting on my cruiser. So that's basically the facts that I found, that if anything, the Xanders would be at fault because they were not in compliance with what the town has asked of them.
Is the dog owner here? Yeah. Would you like to say anything?
Yeah, we had the letter from the 30th, and I replied by email the very next day, and we never received the reply. And our point is, in the ordinance, there is no leash law per se. There's a dogs running at law, at large law, which it says to be in compliance and not considered running at law. The first statement is that it needs to be on a leash. The second one is if it's in a vehicle. The third one is if it's on your property. The fourth one is if it's on someone else's property with your permission. And the last one is if the dog is under your verbal or nonverbal commands. Our dog will listen to us and come back when we call him. He'll sit when we tell him, he'll stay. There's some people here who have seen him. So as far as the leash law, if you want to call it that, we were in compliance. Secondly, Nancy states her dog pulled away from her. She did not see Wolfgang or know he was there. This shows it was an unprovoked attack. And we have veterinary diagnosis showing he suffered bites and he has a dislocated elbow. This is the definition of a vicious dog in the ordinance. An unprovoked attack that causes harm to another domestic animal.
So what are you asking for the town?
I don't want to see their dog euthanized or anything like that. They work here doing landscaping work, which is another point. I don't know how you could be in control of your dog if they're doing work. But if, I would prefer they don't bring it here, but if they do, I request it to be on a muzzle. If it just gets surprised by anybody, it could be a child, somebody else's small dog that it could kill or bite a person if it's surprised or unprovoked. I just don't think you could go visit it. Yeah, I work part-time or used to work part-time delivering packages for the post office on Sundays. I've been to their property and that dog came at me barking and wanting to bite me. It's a vicious dog. It needs to be controlled.
I'm sorry, can you explain where you were when you saw the dog that was vicious?
Well, this is another point. She said Barbara was behind me. That's not what I told her. We were in the community garden. I was on the path that's closest to School Street. Barbara was more on the middle path. She saw Mike, whatever his name is, run around the corner and come to where our dog was. And then we subsequently heard the snarling and yelping. And that was the attack. Did I witness it as it was happening? No, but you see one dog run around and another dog is injured. I don't think you have to be a genius to figure out what happened. Their dog suffered no harm. Our dog is injured. We have a lot of veterinary bills now. He's in a sling. He's going to be in a sling for at least 2 more weeks that we have to deal with this. I know you can't unring the bell and make it not happen. My main concern is this dog's going to attack someone else's dog or a person. And I think the ordinance addresses that.
Do you have any comments?
Ashley, do you have any comments?
That's it.
No, I don't.
Go ahead.
I think the village needs a leash law,
Well, we have one. As far as I was concerned.
according to Brian Zander. leashes is not part of it. We just stated that.
No, I said leashes are part of it, that's the first requirement, it's an at-large lot. The thing is, people don't want a dog just running through their yard. So you want the owner there to control
Was this on your property or?
it. It was in the community garden.
Community garden. Is
Was
there
it?
any sign of community garden that there should be no dogs allowed?
Probably, it's not.
Well,
I was gonna ask, what is the select board's role at this point in the process or whatever?
that's what I'm trying to find out. Because, if you want to bring a hearing, then there is,
Well, as I understand, the select board, when this ordinance was made, was empowered to be able to do something about vicious dogs, including requiring them to be contained, chained, muzzled, or, you know, if it's really bad, you can have it put down. I'm not asking for that, but I do think it should be muzzled, so it can attack another animal or a person. I don't think that's asking too much. That's,
I just have one other thing to say. How do I say this? I live down by the covered bridge. It is dog heaven. It's like dogs off leash all the time. And dogs, somebody's gonna get bit. I'm not talking about a person, I'm talking about a dog. I've talked to a couple of people about this kindly. I know I'm not always kind, but I try to be kind about it because I know that I don't want a dog to be hit by a car. But people should have their dogs on leashes. I agree with Mary. I don't care how kind and friendly your dog is, things happen, and I think that's gotta be, I know you said you thought that was part of an ordinance, but maybe it's not understood by the community.
but this dog was on a leash and it jerked out of her hand because there was another
Which I
animal.
thought wasn't a leash, right?
It was on a leash, but she wasn't holding it. So,
But you can share that one.
no, I've always said from the beginning, he wasn't on a leash, the ordinance doesn't require him to be on a leash.
well, the letter you received from the select board said. we're not-
And I replied, referring to the ordinance, that the fifth statement is your dog can be under verbal or nonverbal command.
I spoke with Ashley today, over email, and she recommended that the town maybe revisit the dog ordinance and make it very clear about whether you want to have dogs on leashes and list the roads that are described. That was just her recommendation.
Yeah, I was about to say that, I think it's clear, but I think perhaps we need to revisit it and make it clearer. That all dogs in the village have to be on a leash regardless.
That's fine, but the main point of this is it's a vicious dog, that is also in the ordinance. Everyone wants to distract it to a leash incident, it was a vicious dog incident. A dog unprovoked attacked another dog, and it's in the ordinance, it's.
Well, I'd have to refer to Ashley, but
Well, when I spoke with Ashley earlier, she said she didn't have the ordinance. And, you know, it strikes me funny, the animal control ordinance officer doesn't have the new ordinance.
well, I can't speak to that, I don't know
I
about that.
don't know, but I'm just,
But, I'd like to hear what Ashley has to say, because, obviously, we can have a hearing, and you have the rights, I believe, under the ordinance.
well, I thought this was the hearing, but.
No, this is not an official hearing. Official hearing is completely different.
Yeah, a vicious dog hearing is when a dog actually bites the person and when it's off property. But
and that's what happened.
I did get the updated town ordinances after the conversation. You know, ultimately it comes down to the select board did issue a letter that stated that the dog had to be on leash when it was in town.
Well, can you point me, if you have the ordinance, can you show me where it says that? Because I see,
The town did write you a letter and requested that you have your dog on leash when in town.
well, I'm asking you from the ordinance, because that's what's gonna govern things, under section 3 definitions. Paragraph I, it talks about running at large. Running at large means a dog that is not on a leash, in a vehicle, on the owner's premises, on the premises of another person with that person's permission, or clearly under the verbal or nonverbal control of its owner. My dog is under verbal control, but he can't come to me when his leg is in another dog's mouth.
The other thing is, if you want to get down to the nitty gritty, you also didn't have eyes on your dog where you could have foreseen the other dog coming, where you could have called your dog to you.
I did call my
However,
dog.
also if the dog was on leash, you would have been able to pick him up a lot quicker as well. It's unfortunate that this happened and that it has to come down to this. The other thing is the Mikey doesn't even live in the town of Grafton.
That's right. So what's the big thing about having him wear a muzzle when they come here to do landscape work?
I don't even know if they're gonna bring them with them into town at this point.
You don't know that.
Can I ask you a question? You said you visited the other dogs, and did he appear to be vicious or attacking you? Do you feel it was a friendly dog?
And he acted like a dog that would act, with a stranger coming on property. He was barking, and whatnot. He did let me get out of the vehicle, and then once he sniffed me, he didn't pay any attention to me. He gave no indication of wanting to attack me once I was outside the vehicle.
Suzanne?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It seems like there are two things going on here. One, smacks of judicial hearing, which this is not.
That's not.
And the second thing is, in such a hearing, I think what would be asked of the owners of Mike is, did that leash actually slip from their hands, or was he in the back of the truck and he got out of the truck with the leash attached? We don't know the factual answer to that question, but I think the ordinance would have to be very clear if we revise the ordinance. Is it the intention of the ordinance to say every dog has to be on a leash and under the owner's control? Because I think that would be what we're really seeking as a town, and the problem Wendy referenced that she's trying to solve. The dogs that walk in the village are sometimes not under control, any kind of control. And with a leash law, we could assure that. But it sounds like the leash law needs to be revisited to be very clear.
Well, I can't speak for the board, but I think all of us here always knew or thought we had a leash law. Now, if it's unclear, then it's up to the select board to clarify the law. And this is not a judicial hearing, and if you want a judicial hearing, so we can have both parties here, then you can request that, and then we will do that. But we can't make any decisions here.
That's what we thought we were requesting,
No,
and it says within 7 days you have to have the hearing after a report.
well, I don't know, actually, I mean, it's not too late for them if they want to have a hearing, can we? Can we do it?
The vicious dog hearing is if the dog bites a person and it's off
Right.
property. So no person was bitten, so a vicious dog hearing wouldn't really,
I'm sorry, but Ashley doesn't seem very confident in her job, because it's a person or another animal. It's like she's trying to cover something up here. I don't know what it is.
So I think you just calm down a little bit. Ashley is an officer of the law. We hired them to take care of our dog issues, and what you're saying to us now is that she's not qualified. I think that's.
Well, she never came to visit our
I
dog.
think that's the way.
She never visited the garden to see what it looked like. She asked us numerous times, what does it look like? She didn't have the up-to-date ordinance. I'm sorry, but I don't think she did a very good investigation, sir.
I can't comment on that because Ashley is our representative and she handles all the dog stuff. We don't, and we pay a fee for that, and I believe that in all the issues that we've had, she's been very competent.
Well, she's incorrect that a vicious dog is only when it bites a person.
That's
And-
exactly what the town ordinance says. It says when a vicious dog bites a person, that's when you have a vicious dog hearing.
And it also goes on later to say if it attacks another animal, you have a vicious dog hearing, but you know, I don't feel that we're gonna get what we want here. It's just going around in circles. You just wanna blame the dog that was bitten and the other dog, oh well.
Kobe, you have something?
If you didn't see your dog, how do you know your dog didn't provoke the other one? That's.
Her owner stated that she didn't say it was provoked.
I
She jerked out of her hand.
No, don't yell at me, I'm just asking.
I'm trying to speak so everyone can hear. Her dog just jerked out of her hand. She didn't even know why.
I think we should make it so no matter if you think your dog is mean or not, you should have it on a leash anyway. I mean, it makes sense to have it on a leash all the time,
Well, I mean,
be done with it.
actually, we have to rely on you because that's what we have a contract for. Which is about where we're gonna go sign a new contract tonight. So you have to guide us on what we should be doing.
Basically, I don't know if the Xanders are looking for restitution for their dog, but that would be a civil issue regardless. As for the other dog in violation, unfortunately, it was an accident that happened. They were sitting down and the dog jerked from their hand. And honestly, I don't think the other dog is at fault because accidents do happen. I've had my dog slip out of my hands by accident and approach other people.
Yes,
I don't know, I mean, I think if the town wants to have a leash ordinance, it seems like there already is one, but for all dogs on leash, that's fair, but if the dog is bitten by another dog, what is their recourse? Because it's seeming like they're being told there isn't much that can be done, but I have a dog and it's been aggressively approached by off-leash dogs in town. And what if something happens?
well, we have a leash, right? It might be unclear perhaps, but it is,
Pardon the pun, it
the
seems like
intent was there to have a leash law. So if a dog is running without a leash in town, then that should be reported, and then we'll get the animal control officer to go to that individual's home and explain to them that they need to keep their dog on a leash,
Yeah.
so we can stop that.
That's
We
correct.
can't control somebody. Huh?
I said that's correct. Yeah, if there's a dog running off leash, that's where I get called and I go have a conversation with the off leash. That's where
We lost you.
I said if dogs are off leash, that's where it gets reported to me and I go have a conversation with people. And then, I show them the town ordinances and tell them, how the dog has to be restrained to their property. It has to be contained to their property. Other than that, once it starts coming off property, that's when fines are being issued. And ultimately dogs can be seized for running off leash. However, it has to be reported. And if you were looking at this case in particular, the letter was sent to the Xanders about the dog being on leash. And it wasn't. And, it's a very unfortunate accident that happened. I don't know what else I can say except that, it was overall an accident that did happen. And talking with other people, they did not have a problem with the dog. Even the witness said that he pets the dog on a daily basis. And, even my interaction with the dog, I didn't think the dog was vicious towards me.
Maybe my suggestion is to talk to the owners of the dog and
No,
explain the situation, perhaps they'll help with some of the expenses.
no, we tried to talk to her at the moment. This was another thing. It was like a hit and run driver. She grabbed her dog, jumped in the truck and drove away. She didn't ask if our dog was okay or injured. And there are plenty of dogs that are friendly to people, but if it's around another animal, it's not. And I'd like to also point Ashley or anyone else here to section 10, vicious dogs. You can file a written complaint. Well, I thought that's what we did, but I guess we were inappropriate for the way we filed it. But it also says contain the name date of the domestic pet or animal threatened or attacked. So this goes to more than just if it bites a person, it's a vicious dog, as Ashley is trying to make it out to be.
Ashley? Did you hear that?
I did not.
They're complaining that, under the ordinance, the dogs were vicious. And there should be consequences.
Section 10, do you have the ordinance with you? Section 10 also shows that if a domestic pet is attacked, it is considered a vicious dog. It's more than
So
just the person.
The other thing that's a problem here is this dog doesn't even live in your town. I can't enforce something that if they bring the dog to town, that's one thing, but they don't live in your town, so I can't enforce it. I haven't even checked to see if the dog has been back into Grafton.
So what's the big problem of requiring it to be muzzled if it's in town? They can leave it at home.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, that's what I had said earlier, is for them to not bring the dog into town.
But the select board has the power to require it to be muzzled if it's in town.
I'm not sure. Without hearing.
I mean,
mean,
if they're not gonna bring the
correct.
dog to town, then
Absolutely.
it doesn't need to be muzzled when it comes, because it won't be in town. I mean, that's a conversation that I would have to have with the owners about it, and as of today, I don't think they have brought the dog back into town.
As I understand it, we cannot make this determination now because it's not a public hearing. If you're requesting that, I guess then we'd have to do that, but we had another incident a few months back, and we had a public hearing, and the select board took its action. But that was at a legitimate public hearing, not at a select board meeting. So I guess if you wanted to do that, then I would.
That's what we want then. We
And
wanna have
we would call have a hearing,
That's what we would like.
okay? And you're free to do so.
Have you had any other complaints about your dog in town?
No, our dog, no. But we've had it with Mikey. I've seen him jump out of their truck and go after other dogs. He might be very friendly around other people. She says that, but Josh and Nancy did work on our house at one time in our garden. I came back from work and Mike and Josh were on my porch, and Mike said, "Be careful, he doesn't always like people." And he growled and barked at me.
And who's Josh?
Is this dog, the black dog in the driver on the Tacoma Silver?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the same, yeah.
It's the best dog.
It's an aggressive.
It's the dog I was mentioning, the approach our dog aggressively as well.
Well, I just a side note,
Unreported, but
if residents see dogs running loose and they know who they are, report it to us. And then we'll get the animal control to go to that individual and make sure that that dog doesn't run loose. But the whole thought was not to have dogs running loose in the village. That's what was done. That's good. Go ahead.
Well, just to back them up, we've had multiple incidents with this person, with their dog getting out of the truck, running at our dog, and almost attacking our dog. And
I'm sure it's that off.
he confronted him and told him if it happens again, I'm gonna contact.
First time was in his truck, and I turned around the corner on Kidder Hill to Pleasant, and the dog ran at my dog, bit her. I actually called the sheriff's office. The second time they were doing work, or he was doing work across the street at our house, he ran down all the way from top of Zeller Camp into the road. I had to pick up my dog because I knew he'd attacked her before, and And then I was furious. I
This
kinda-
dog
I said,
seems
"Hold on."
specifically
but-
dog aggressive.
Yeah, no, it was,
So-
because I was petty him, like the sheriff was saying.
Yeah.
So my regret now is that when I called the initial time, I didn't say anything.
Exactly.
It's, you know,
If you're not recording, then there's no history.
Because I'm a dog person, I'm like, yeah, like you,
We
I don't
didn't
want
wanna
to
see
use
it.
dog, I don't want, yeah, but that dog should be having one.
Yeah, we didn't wanna
Or should
see-
be in town.
Punished for its, what we saw as its owner's irresponsibility, but it did seem like it was owner issues where they just leave it in the truck or it can jump out, they just leave.
Oh, he was out in the
It was out in
pond.
the yard while
Well,
we were doing work,
Yeah.
so.
Yes,
I guess a couple of years ago, we were walking by Maggie's house. And, their worker Joy was in the yard. And Josh was around behind Maggie's house. And Mike was in the truck. Joy walked over, we had Wolfgang on a leash in the road. Joy came over to say hi and pet Wolfgang. Mike jumps out of the truck and runs over to Wolfgang and is getting ready to bite him. Brian picks him up and Mike is lunging at Brian. This was about 2 years ago, and so it hasn't got any better. This dog is a
And you're
menace.
exactly right. People have to report it or you don't know and you can't do anything.
but
Why are you talking about this and not having a hearing? We should be able to.
Yeah. So what are the end decision discussion, and you request a hearing, and then we can have all the discussion I'm gonna make when it has actually some merits, so we can do something,
No, I thought this was supposed to be the hearing, but.
Yeah. okay?
And Wolfgang, just as my experience in town, always listens to them.
And then we'll have the both parties here.
Again, I know.
And then we as a board can make some decisions.
Wolfgang's girlfriend.
We love it.
I didn't mean to take up so much
No, that's
time. I
okay.
wanted to make a brief comment and move on with it. Everyone starts to get into this leash thing and it's beyond that.
So you send a letter and you request a hearing, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
We have the animal control hearing, contract. To be signed. The contract, I think we budgeted 2,200, I think, 2,000, and this is 1,500. So it's coming under the budget. So someone make a motion to, approve the contract. We have a second, Bill?
Are we happy with what she is doing?
I think so. I mean, we had the other incident and we handled it very well.
More towns are, having contracts with the animal control person, and that's probably one of the reasons why this is lower. Because the more towns that come into this contract, the lesser fees for everybody. Correct me if I'm not right.
Yeah, and it's a help for because she doesn't have to go after unlicensed dogs and send that money to somebody's house and all that kind of stuff. So,
Protection.
yeah. But we do need a second. Second, okay. Any other, we want to have any discussion, John? Anybody?
I'm sorry.
Hmm?
Did you say, ask for a vote?
Just, see if anybody has any discussion. If not, all in favor, someone say aye. Aye. Opposed? You opposed? You abstaining?
I didn't say anything.
I know, I'm asking. I don't know.
Okay.
Okay, so four ayes, one abstention. Okay. The traffic study, who's here for that?
I agree with that. So I had suggested, I don't think the slides are critical if it's, or you have them, so I guess that's easy enough. So we had gotten a request from the town to do a traffic study on towns and roads, I think in response to concerns about speeding. And I think the way that it was put to me, the town was interested in lowering the speed limit on, town.
Was or was not?
What?
Was or wasn't?
What, into which particular,
The town was or was
Yeah,
not.
was, yes, the town, that they had requested, the town had requested a traffic study. With the interest of lowering the speed limit on town road. And so. You know, I mean, just to keep it short, basically, the state has a process and the rules about setting speed limits. You are. When you set a speed limit for the first time, it can be like if you have a speed limit and you set a speed limit, there are really no restrictions on it, and it can be sort of whatever it is set to be legally enforceable. If you have an existing speed limit and you want to change the existing speed limit to either a higher or lower speed limit than what it is, you have to have a traffic study done. And then the new speed limit is required to be based on the results of the traffic study. And so the threshold that is used, and this is essentially a federal highway standard, is that the 85th percentile speed is the speed that is used as the basis for setting a speed limit. The thinking behind that being that 15% of drivers are the ones who cause the huge majority of accidents, and that the 85th percentile being the speed at which 85% of drivers are driving at or below. And so that is the state standard for speed limit. And so essentially, if you go to the next slide, the results of the traffic study at the 3 locations that we had done, the 85th percentile speed is significantly higher than the existing speed limit. And so for the town to lower the speed limit lower than the 40 miles per hour that it's currently at, that would put you out of compliance with the essentially the state statute on setting speed limits, which, you know, the major, I think, sort of reason that could potentially open you, you know, again, I know I understand limited enforcement, which is another piece of the issue.
Would you mind standing up? It's really hard.
And you're okay, just try it. So we're not.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, let me, so I can. Apologize, so, all right, so it's following Brad, working with the Wyndham Regional Commission, so we provide a lot of different services for the towns in Wyndham County, traffic studies being one of them. I've been working at hazard mitigation plans, we help with writing grants, we do a lot of stuff. I work with Morgan on quite a few different things, and so the town has requested us to do a speed study about laws, essentially that sort of, and so. I mean, basically, the result of the traffic study is too high for the town to legally lower the speed limit. And so if you were to lower the speed limit, you would potentially open yourself to being challenged in court successfully, so it would decrease.
Well, it says that it's between Turner Hill and Zeller Road. That's it.
There's 3 different locations, so if you go to them, so we did one at Turner Hill and Zeller Road, one at the end of Wyman Hill Road. And then the next one was at the Grafton Trails and Outdoor Center.
So those numbers are accurate.
We can't see it.
Okay, so, yes, I can tell you, so, and I don't, so I don't have the numbers, I have to read them, but so at the Grafton Trails and Outdoor Center, the speed limit is 40 miles per hour, and the 85th percentile speed was 49 miles per hour. And so if you go to the next, or I guess the last slide, at Wyman Hill Road, it was even higher, the 85th percentile speed was 54 miles per hour. And then at Turner Hill, it was 47 miles per hour, so significantly higher than coastal speed.
I have a question about the methodology, because I feel like, isn't it incredibly biased, like, if the speed limit is posted at 40, who's gonna drive at 25? No one, but, you know, I've driven on similar roads today, we were out in Dorset, and there's a similar road, and it's 30, and people drive 30, 35. But if you post it, it's 40, and then you do a study, it's going to bias the results.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's, you know, it's an FHWA rule, it's not, you know, I haven't created the state statute on speed limits. You're exactly, yeah, the FHWA rule, there is a document called the Manual Uniform of Traffic Control Devices, which essentially tells you what you can and cannot do with all of the roads and bridges, basically anything you can imagine. The state is then required to have its own standards that are in compliance with the federal MUTCD. And so that is what the rules are about setting speed limits, which then become, if someone is in court challenging a speeding ticket, that becomes the legal standard for whether or not a speed limit is enforceable.
What, oh, sorry, what name you?
How about in town, in the village? Have you studied that?
We haven't, I mean, this is, I think, kind of the neck, there's more to this, because I think obviously people drive very fast, and I think there are, a piece of this is just that the speed limit is not the be all end all of how fast people are driving, and I probably have done speed studies in the village some point in time, I would imagine.
Well, I mean, we live in the village, and it's 25, and there's people doing at least 40 or 50, and they go right through the stop sign, turning on the main street. So-
Right, I mean, a piece of it is, again, I don't live here, I don't, I'm not sitting there, I don't know, I think. In any instance, there's gonna be outliers, because we do studies, we'll have, 30-mile-per-hour, we'll speed from 70, that always happens. This is, we had these kind of 2 weeks, this is every single vehicle over a 24-hour period for 2 weeks, so this is a very over a larger sample size, and so, I mean, I cannot say for sure, but my guess would be that if we were to do a similar study in the village, that would be average in the 80% of it would be significantly lower than the 45 to 50 miles per hour that we had out. And again, that's not representative of every single driver, but over this large sample size.
So where's the recommendation?
Well, that's, I think, the next piece essentially is that, I mean, and I think that's something that is really, I mean, so I guess just to back up. People are going faster than you would like them to be going on top. I think that everyone is in agreement about that. The speed limit is 40, people are going significantly faster than 40 on average. Your ability to enforce the posted speed limit is very, I know you have as it was the case with the Wyndham County Sheriff or the state, I put that is the hours are limited, it's different than when towns have their own police department and have someone sitting out there all the time. And so I think that, I mean, I'm happy to take the question. What I would say is that the speed limit is really not that determinant, particularly in places where you have relatively limited police enforcement, that people are not driving the speed that they're driving because of the posted speed limit. There's a certain subset of drivers who drive the posted speed limit everywhere they go all the time. And I think that these, again, FHWA, VTRAN will tell you that that is a limited proportion of all drivers, and that most people are driving the speed that they feel most comfortable driving on a given road, and then there's another subset of drivers who are driving in a way that's unreasonable, and that's really where that 80th percentile standard comes from. That is that 15% who are driving in a way that's unreasonable. And so, I mean, the point being is that even if the town lowered the speed limit, it more than likely would not get affected at actually lowering the speed that people drive. And so there are a laundry list of potential things that the town would consider doing that would be more effective at getting people to follow the 40 mile per hour posted speed limit rather than lowering the existing limit of 30. Well, that's the next thing. So if you go to the next slide, please, I appreciate your report. So I had some pictures just to illustrate that, is that look like the roads, particularly from where there's, I mean, I think Grafton, I assume that you have pretty comprehensive speed limits around town. There's towns that don't have both speed limits around all their roads, or have just a town-wide ordinance. The road conditions are much more determined how fast people are driving than both speed limit, and so this is just an example of it. This is a new thing. We haven't done a traffic study on this road. If we did do a traffic study on this road, the post speed limit, the average speed would be like 17 or 18 miles per hour. We did one in the Bells Falls Village Square. The average speed was like 18 miles an hour, just because the environment in which you're driving is going to force you to slow down. And so the next slide. This is Augerville Road Marlboro, which is also a dirt road, people are gonna be driving faster on Augerville Road Marlboro because it's a wider, longer, straighter stretch, and that just lets people drive faster. And so. You know, there's a long list of things, I think the huge majority of them being like more involved intervention the town is interested in.
Before you keep going, did you go back to the Wyman Hill slide?
Yes,
Because they really didn't get to see
That's 50.
where it's at. So this one, the speed limit just beyond there is 50 miles an
It's
hour.
actually 50, yeah, it's true.
yeah, I think that this
But it
is.
said 40.
I believe that, again, I believe where we place our counters is on the 40, I could be wrong about that. This is, I didn't create these,
Yeah,
so.
Cody's concern was
That-
at that bridge and beyond that bridge.
Yes, okay.
So it does, and Wyman Hill is beyond the bridge.
It's way past them.
Yeah, way past the bridge. So how does this represent Wyman Hill part of the road? If it's 40 miles an hour. And that's where a lot of the problem for our little neighborhood and where's
Mhm.
we have concerns about
Okay,
coming from. But it doesn't look like that was really studied. I mean, and we saw the sheriff, because we were lucky none of us got it there.
so,
Over by the chief's back.
okay.
Not.
But that is, no, that is where if you go to the outdoor center slide, this was, I think. Supposed to be more representative, I mean, there's logistical issues as far as where we cannot set up counters, the way that there's a lot of places we're trying to, these are physical tools that you lay down. And so we have to be pretty careful where exactly we put them down, so we get requests for certain locations, we have to. Try to do our best to approximate those locations based on where we realistically can set up the counters in a way that's gonna be successful, and so. I think this, you know, the request was for several locations on down the road, and I think that the outdoor center. And the other locations are supposed, I mean, and I also think that it's unlikely that the data will be dramatically different. At the cheese factory or at the cheese, company, that it is at the.
Oh, it
outdoor
will
center.
be definitely different, very different. Very different, from the
And
jeans factory to there to. This is before. The picture is more like the Grafton Ponds area.
yeah,
Straight.
that's the thing, so the percent on the Wyman Hill one, that's definitely like. Way past the 50 mph change in speed. And we at least confirm that that percentile that was calculated wasn't based off of 40 miles per hour.
Yeah, I mean, that would be
But
very,
that
very easy to start, yeah.
It's not where. It's 50 miles an hour where it started.
Well, so I think, I mean, this is Wyman Hill Road here.
Right.
And then this is the,
Stop,
right, so
but it's 50 miles an hour there, it's from city to be rolled out.
okay,
Yes, it is.
is it all?
Yeah.
It's
If you leave the village.
Well, no, I know it's going in terms of, yes,
They
yeah.
see the sign 50 and they speed up before they even get to the 50.
Right,
Where the second slide, that's our house.
Yeah.
That's our crazy stuff.
yeah,
That's where people.
well, no, I could,
Right.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, like, so if regardless of what the state says, say we as a town don't care.
yeah,
What percentage of like, who's gonna honestly waste their time challenging a change?
well, no, that's, no, I mean, that's the thing, I mean,
So,
it's,
he decides to do
you know,
it.
I mean, you can do kind of what you want, and then just assume that no one is going to. You know, bring the support and request speed study records, I mean, again, it's unlikely that would happen, but you are opening yourself up to this potential legal challenge on this road.
It's gonna come down to the presence of a sheriff monitoring that speed, and stopping cars and giving them a warning. If they do it on a regular basis, you're gonna slow that speed down. We had it down the Cambridge Fork, Grafton area.
I'm surprised with all the extra presence we saw this past week or two, Not once were they down
No.
near that area.
And I have to believe that the majority of people are law abiding and don't wanna be going 20 over the
Yeah,
speed
most people are
limit. So I feel like if we change the speed limit, the majority of people are going to abide by it. And I'm gonna appeal to the emotions of the people in this room and say, I have a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old. And
And
people
dogs.
rip past, and a dog, and people rip past our house. They speed up right in front of it. We hear them at Friday nights. People drafting their teenagers in their pickup trucks. I'm sorry, it's a problem.
And this really wasn't done at 9 o'clock at night.
Well, it
No,
runs
Well,
for,
it is fun.
it's no, it's all day, every day, 2 weeks.
no, it's not gonna be an accurate picture of certain times of the day
Well,
where
I mean,
people
we-
tend to go very fast. It's getting
So
bad.
we have every single car, every single hour, so I can certainly go in and look at the data and pull out. You know, the night, if there's specific data that you would like, I've asked for, more than happy to do that, but I mean, I think what you said. Like in principle agree with you, like I think it should be right, but it's the reality is that. You know, if you talk to FHWA, there are people way above my pay grade, way more knowledgeable about this stuff than I am. They're gonna tell you that the proportion of people that are on the speed limit is actually relatively small. And that most people are driving at a pace that they're comfortable with regardless of what posts do. And that, you know, I always throw Ian DeGitis under the bus. Ian DeGitis is the head of V-Trans for all this stuff. If you talk to Ian DeGitis, that is what he would say to you. And so I'm not trying to like diminish your concerns or sort of tell you that that you're sort of misplaced. What I'm saying is that lowering the speed limit is more than likely not gonna substantially change the speeds that people are driving. And so that was, I think, what I was sort of moving to, is that there's, I think, a bunch of simple things in town to do that would have more of an impact.
But I mean, I see the picture of the dirt road that's winding, and realistically, we're not gonna, you know, rip out all the concrete and.
We need your recommendation.
Yeah, no, so that's what, that's what I'm, so you could go to this, so basically, I think there's a bunch of things to do, so I mean, as I said. The town just go ahead and go lower the speed limit, it's unlikely that you are gonna have someone, you know, take a speed limit for, you know, subpoena the traffic study, the challenge, but it's not. Like outside of the realm of possibility that something like that could potentially happen, because the speed, if you did lower the speed limit based on the data that was collected. You would theoretically be out of compliance with the Vermont rules for speed limits. Whether there would be any consequences for that, I can't say, it's unlikely, but it's not impossible. But the point, I guess, really is just that lowering the speed limit is more than likely not gonna have a huge impact on getting people to drive slower, and that what I would say is, so there's a bunch of things that have to consider that I think are relatively small. If you go to the next slide. Or I guess 2 slides, there's these, yeah, so. One thing is just to put up like consider radar feedback sign. Newfane did this, they're about $3,000 a piece. I know Jay Wilson, who is the road foreman in Newfane, has been very, very happy with the results that they've had with their radar feedback signs. They're solar powered, so they can be set up basically anywhere. These are something, you know, they flash at, sure people have seen them, they flash at you, they show you the speed limit. This is something that is, you know, proven to be effective at getting people to slow down, that they see these signs, they see the speed flash up and they hit the brakes. And so these are a really just small, simple, inexpensive intervention that are gonna, you know, help to get people to slow down a little bit. And then the other thing really is, you know, and this is a little bit more dramatic of a context than Vermont, obviously, but the huge majority of roads in Vermont don't have fog lines, like striping on the side. And when you don't have fog lines and your roads, and I haven't measured the width of the road, and having when you have wider roads without any lines, people feel like they have more space when they're driving, and they can drive faster when they feel that they have more open space. And so just doing something simple like striping some lines, you could consider, you know, striping lines and narrowing the lanes from, you know, 11 foot to 10 foot, which would be well within the V-Trans regulations for a town highway that at the traffic volumes that town and road has. You know, something like that, you just essentially create a more confined sense of space for the driver, which is the, you know, major thing that's determined how fast or how slow people are driving. And so I think that striking some fog lanes, you know, considering narrowing the lane widths when you do strike the fog lanes from fog lines from 11 foot to 10 feet, that would be very reasonable, putting in radar feedback signs, and I don't, what on the slide, I think.
I think we could do the radar feedback, so just working that line, yes.
I'd like to say something here, that, first of all, white lines are very expensive. The state doesn't provide them. They do the yellow, we have to do the white. Second thing is, 3 or 4 years ago, we had on the town warning for the town meeting to put those signs up, and we'll vote it down by the public. We have increased the sheriff's time in the town, so it's from 1 to 1, I don't remember.
8 to 14.
Huh?
8 hours per month to 14.
Yeah, 8 hours to 14, and that's expensive. There was another proposal that we can join another town, and we could have actually a part-time policeman here, but that's 20,000 a year. These are all great, but then the budget goes up. I mean, to be very honest, we're sitting here trying to keep the tax rate as low as possible. All these things are wonderful, but is everybody gonna be willing to pay for it? And you can put all the signs in the world up. The only way you're gonna stop it is with traffic, with policemen. If anybody knows, you take it back when it's Westminster Road, you don't go fast there. Okay, that's bottom line there, okay? When you're in Chester, you don't go fast, because Chester police are on the main highway there all the time. And that deters people, and the only way it's gonna happen is put the police out.
Okay, so just looking at the things that have been proposed, I was not around for the radar signs. I don't think we have room even, I don't think it's a financial concern for the white lines, because I don't think there's room for it for the area that we're discussing. The enforcement, I know we increased the hours, it seems like they didn't have availability, so we were reimbursed as the town for the hours that they could not honor. I think we should try lowering the speed limit, because it'll give them something to enforce for the time that they actually can come.
Like what cost is associated with the lowering the speed limit, and what are the drawbacks in the town, does anyone see a negative to that?
Well, the only cost is the signs.
Yeah, that's what I mean,
Yeah, but that's the
so
lowest cost option,
right.
it seems.
like what I propose, I remember a while ago, like if anywhere, no one needs to be going more than 35 anywhere in town. I don't see that, and people are still gonna go 40, 45, but that's a lot more reasonable than the 60 or 70 even I've seen people rip between 40 to 50 miles per hour.
And when they're actually there to enforce, they'll have a lower speed limit to actually enforce.
Along with actually telling them where to.
Wendy?
So remember how we talked about the most dangerous intersection in town, which is the Cambridgeport Bridge place? And all of our efforts went into leasing that. How about we move now to Townsend Road? Just tell the sheriff, that's where we want all of your efforts.
We can do that.
Like, can we-
We can do that.
Let's do that.
We just added to,
That's not-
right now, he's, I mean, right now we have the sheriff coming into the village, the stop sign over here.
Yeah.
Those are the main areas that they fly in here, and we'll just have to go to town and road.
And
And
I
that,
think that truck that everyone's so worried about and multiple casualties and stuff, I think it's on Townsend Road, and I think, yeah, it's Townsend Road.
yeah, it's probably, yeah.
So we can ask the sheriff to the town to
Yes, it will.
Beyond that, I think something that we have tried to suggest before the speed study was done is perhaps lowering it to 35, and then what had been discussed is moving the 50 further away from town.
Or just everything.
Yeah, like it's currently just past our house, at the bridge. People do speed up going towards it because they know it's there. So I think like for us, we would love to see that moved further away from our house, because yeah, we are terrified. We're putting up a fence, we're trying to keep our children contained, but right now the reality is that until our fence is done, our kids don't play outside. Not there.
Well, I agree with moving this to 50. I think that we were all agreeing with that at the time anyway. That could be done first.
And from the other direction, when we try to get out our driveway, and Carl and Charlie try to get out of their garage,
Yeah,
they're flying They don't slow down at that.
They have to
rate.
move the 20 to 40 mile back.
Yeah, that 40 miles and 50 back. But that's the least expensive,
No, I think we should try that personally, but I don't. Stop it.
and the least doesn't.
I think that's. a
At
big
that
piece
end,
of the
because
puzzle.
that's where,
That is definitely good.
that's where the teenagers, get going.
Well, I'm here, how far am I allowed to actually move them? Is there a rule on that?
How far are you like, what do you?
Yeah, the designated speed limit signs that are already there, if they wanna move them back in certain directions, they might not even allow them to move. them
Well,
back.
if you, I mean, it's sort of the same as right, I mean, again, if you move the speed limit sign, you change the speed limit in the area, and legally you're supposed to have a study done. And then whatever change that you make is supposed to be in compliance with the study that's done. So, I mean, that's what the rules are, again. Whether that you can kind of do what you want, and it's not like,
Really.
no, I think that it's unlikely that anything that you're really.
We can move, but, Joe, let's do this down in Cameron, we got changing all the time, nothing ever changed.
Wendy?
No, I just remember the sheriff, he was adamant that we wouldn't be able to, maybe it's Bill, that we wouldn't be able to recoup our fine money or whatever it was if we didn't have the correct ordinance language that match the signs. So I don't think it's you pick up the sign and move it, like, I'd like to pick up the stop sign.
We do all our ordinance, so that we can collect the fine.
But in the ordinance, it clearly defines where the sign is located,
So you have to change the ordinance again.
which would include a public hearing, and you have to
Yeah.
have it posted for X amount of days, and then.
Well, why don't we put this on the, why don't we,
It's
you know,
it's a long process.
we're running late here tonight, it's a long meeting. Why don't we put this on for the next meeting to see, whether we want to do some. Move the signs or go through a public hearing again and all that kind of stuff, that we did before. It's time to take a lot of time. Yes,
One more question, if I may, so there are those stationary flashing signs, but there are also, at least there have been these movable signs that they can be moved to different parts of
Yeah,
the
I
town.
believe that those two exist, I mean, they're more expensive, I think the ones that you just affix to the speed limit sign that are solar, which are the least expensive ones, you could theoretically purchase the big movable ones, I don't know off the top of my head. how much
they were loaned to us from the sheriff.
Yeah, the sheriff's department has,
But that's something we can't, I mean, we can't even move the sign.
Well, I think this is something worth looking into, as we are looking into the different possibilities.
We'll put it on the warrant again and see if people wanna put signs up.
Yeah, if
They
there's a
voted down.
movable sign, if we have a critical stretch of road in our town, then we put the sign there. And if it seems to have any effect and with these other measures, then we can move it to another part of town. We have other places also where we have critical speeding, but is that not worth looking into?
Well, it has to go on, we don't have it in the budget this year, so we have to put it into the budget for next year.
Realize that.
And that's gonna have to go into, the town meeting, and then the people make a judgment.
Yeah, and how much does it cost? Does anybody?
Well, I think years ago, when we did it, those signs were like $5,000-6,000 per.
so
So I don't know what they were, so I think we were talking about putting up, I don't remember, anybody remember? I have to look it up.
When I ask them to move out in Convener, I can just ask what an updated price is.
Yeah, but we can't do anything this year anyway, it's not in the budget until we,
To start the, like you mentioned, can we just have instruct the sheriff,
We'll
that
instruct
sign down there?
the simple solution is to instruct the sheriff to hang out down there, and maybe that'll stop the problem.
Yeah, and did you just mention that they loaned you one of those?
They will loan you, for a week or so. The sheriff comes in and puts it on, it's just for a week and then they take it away.
The week would probably,
I don't know, we can ask if they'll.
at
they'll do
least
that
give
again.
a little alert to those violators.
Train people, like move the signs, lower the speed and put the signs up
Mother knows.
and
All right.
condition it.
We'll look into see if that's available to us.
There's usually a long waiting period.
Yeah, but we should know.
Waiting list.
Huge. Patrick?
Does the town pay Lincoln Regional to do this study?
Hey?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No, you look at an annual.
It's part of our annual contract, so effectively we do pay.
Yeah, it's included as part of your.
Dues.
Oh, I like to say, when we hire professionals, to come in and tell us something, we should pay attention to what they say. And you ask him to come and give a conclusion, and he comes supposedly with a professional conclusion, and we say we don't like it. And so we're gonna do something else.
I also think it's important to have the correct data and one go.
Yeah, no, I think, I mean, as it's like, this is like a summary, and she certainly could have made a mistake on the summary, she just probably wasn't that section, bro, that's something I can, and I can also get you. Like substantially more detailed data than this, if that's something that you're interested in.
Well, if there is a plan to move those signs, it would be good to have data that supports doing that. Instead of the slide that says it's 40 miles an hour and it's 50.
Right, whoa,
And so.
I mean, I know, I think that's right, I mean, I think that regardless of what the slide says is 40 or 50, the 85th percentile speed in that location was still beyond 50 miles per hour, and so that, which I don't know, that's, I don't know, that's kind of where it is, but that's like, it's still like. It's fine.
We'll instruct the sheriff to, hang out down there during his, time allotted for us per month. And we'll also look into, renting a sign or having the sheriff's second sign. And we'll see what happens there, and if that doesn't happen, come around budget time and let us know how much money you want to spend to do all these things, if that's what it comes right down to. I mean, if I had my way, I'd have a policeman here in the village every day, but you can't have that, you can't afford it. All right, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. Okay, the highway report, Kobe, you come up front here, we can't hear you.
We're all done with the grant work now on Anderson Road completely. I gave Morgan all the last pictures today. And she will be, doing her thing with next week. My culverts came in for, Middletown, right by the brick house up there. So hopefully within the next week or so, we'll go up there and replace that over. And then we will be starting this, grant work for Stagecoach. After that, so, as of right now, that's where I'm at. Tomorrow, 121 will get graded and, chlorided. And, Wednesday morning, me and Lane will be down fixing the, bridge above it. Reconcrete that back in place.
The bridge at Pier Hill.
No, bridge, yeah.
The one that got hit.
That's one.
We will, fix that on Wednesday. And then, do I need to talk about the fence? Are you gonna?
That's later.
I don't need to do that, I don't need to do.
What's the problem with that?
No, well, you might be handle it right now, John came up with the suggestion that the road crew said they could replace the fence at the cemetery. So they were looking into it, so I don't know.
Wednesday also, after we done with the bridge, I'm gonna go down to WW and I'm just gonna order all the materials I need to do it, and we're just gonna build it ourselves, paint it. And then we'll put it up as we get it done.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll have it done within 2 to 3 weeks. Okay, how it's gonna go. And then I have the reviews Kathy on my desk.
Oh, great,
So
so we need to meet.
whatever.
Anybody, anything for Kobe while he's here?
Mowing,
David finished mowing 35 Townsend Road. And he is going to be, he also finished Great Orchard Road, Otis Road. He will be doing 121 down at Campbellsport next. He'll be out grading tomorrow, so he won't be more, I'll probably need more maybe We had nothing else to goes. But after 121 done and the last of the main ones to do, then we'll be just working on small ones, it should go by the guys.
And I sent you a letter about the school, and
Yeah.
updates and
I was in contact with him today, but.
I didn't know if they were there today. Yeah. Oh, they were up there.
There we go. All right, thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
We have a wait permit.
Yep, it's from Beacon Sales. And they were a little bit late, we usually get these in the spring,
Right, yeah.
so it's just a standard permit. Everything seems the same, so,
Who's the company?
Beacon Sales,
Beacon Sales?
yeah, I looked, they've gotten a permit with us for the last several years.
Okay. All right, somebody make a motion to accept their permit and authorize Morgan to sign it.
Second.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay.
I have one other thing I
Go ahead.
I've been in contact with the state of Vermont about, we used to have a stump dump up there. And there's been a lot of conversation about it. It's been determined that it was open to the public and then it closed around 2015.
Yeah.
The permit didn't expire until now, and in that time, it was never formally closed with the state. So they need a letter from the select board just saying that it's closed to the public and that all of the regulations are followed. Some of those include, like, they had to clear the site and seed it. So it's not open to the public. I'm still kind of in discussion with them because it's very confusing, to be honest, following everything that's happened in the past almost 10 years. But in the meantime, right now, they're requesting a letter saying that stump dump is closed to the public.
Do you remember, we dealt with this, when have we dealt with this years ago?
No,
I don't remember something about the dump.
It was talked about in 2020, and they came to do
Yeah.
a site inspection and they told us everything that needed to be done.
Right, okay.
And it was all done, except they didn't ever formally close it with a letter.
Oh,
Stating that
okay.
it was closed.
So why don't you just write the letter and then we'll deal with it.
So I'll just get a motion authorizing you.
Okay, somebody make a motion to authorize, to write the letter and then we'll prove it at the next meeting. Okay, all right. Steve, second, you got that? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. Clint, Kim, you're on that.
Morgan, can you bring up the people and take off the traffic as Hardy and Nancy? Oh, that's okay. I just want to make sure Hardy and Nancy will be on that. All right, so the first thing, we have waiving the homestead late penalty, which we have to bring up every year. That's when, residents do not file their HS 122 that claims that they have a homestead. If they do have a homestead and they file past April 15th, they are still eligible for the prebate that the state gets, but they also will get a late fee tacked onto them for not abiding by the April 15th. So the town has a choice to waive it, so they don't have a penalty built into it. The penalty can be anywhere from 3% to 8%. So the town can pick a percentage or they can waive it entirely. In the past, we've waived it entirely because we just always felt that there was a burden as it is to pay your taxes and have your taxes go up. So it's a choice of the select board if you want to waive that HS 122 penalty. And it's a penalty of 8% on the entire tax bill that's due. So it can be hefty.
What do they want to do?
I do waive it.
We have a second for that motion? Go ahead.
But I don't really understand, so a homesteader who files their taxes has realized that they are supposed to have this perhaps thing. that they are penalized when they find out. Okay,
By the state, yes.
okay, and what about the previous years?
Well, when a tax year ends, you can't go
It's
back.
on-
When we close,
okay.
when the listers close the tax year or end the grand list, okay, you can't deal with that again.
Okay.
But if you're late after April 15th, then you can get a penalty when you do it, say you.
And they want, the theory is that they wanna file this thing saying, hey, yeah, so very much get whatever.
So they're
Tax
gonna-
rate of a homesteader, and they didn't do it prior, okay.
And what can happen sometimes is they may not, their prevay may not even be that much, but they're gonna get penalized, so they weigh out, do I wanna get
Yeah.
penalized or do I?
Right.
Take the
At the end
chance.
of the day. Or else they wait to use your file of, right. So, right.
So the motion was to leave it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, because I'll be printing tax bills.
We need to take a vote, I think.
No, you did.
So all in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay. Tax
So-
rate.
Setting the tax rate, I think I gave you guys all the charts, and anybody have any questions? And I do have a question that Joe brought up. Harvey, are you on?
Marty, you there? Nancy?
Hardy, can you hear us?
Marty? Okay, you hear us?
I guess so, but you gotta speak carefully because I can't hear very well.
Okay, can you hear me, Hardy?
Yeah, what do you got?
Okay, so the question was, brought up by Joe. You had me increase the assessed value of the GIA, the Nature Museum, the Historical Society, and now the Brick Church.
Yeah.
Now, Joe was wondering, wasn't the Brick Church assessment already built into when it was in with the Historical Society? And
Yeah.
why wouldn't we be adding it again?
Because it's no longer a historical society, which is a statute by the state of Vermont, not voted by the town. This one was voted by the town, like the GIA.
So when it was with the Historical Society, was it still labeled as a church?
But that was owned by the Historical Society, so it was grandfathered by the state. The state said it was a state approved exemption.
Okay, and so,
It no longer is state approved exemption.
so it fell under like the category of a church, then state exempt.
Now the town voted it to be an exemption.
Right, because it became a nonprofit brick meeting house, right?
Yes, they don't have to pay any taxes, but that we all have to pay the taxes for them.
Okay. Okay, so do you have any questions on how we come about with the tax rate?
A quick question, does that understanding from Marty reflect?
It's exactly what's
Okay,
written in
that's
there,
what-
yes, yes.
Okay.
Joe wanted me to double check,
Yeah, no, I
because I had to increase it to the 16,594.
then, okay.
So it's looking like right now our municipal tax rate for the town highway, the town budget and the capital budget would come to 0.8027. And then when we bring in our local agreement, which is our voted contracts for the fire department, the Grafton Nature Museum, the Historical Society, the GIN, and our veterans, that would bring our local agreement to 0.0201. So then we would add the two together and we get 0.8228. And that would cover enough taxes for all of the above. I like to round up, so I was looking at 0.8230 rather than 8228. So then in the bottom section, we had the non-resident tax rate that came in. for education, that came at 1 o'clock today at 1.5445. If we were to round up to 0.8230 for the municipal, the non-resident would be paying 2.3675. Homestead tax rate for education came in at 1.3498. Add the municipal 0.8230. And resident will be paying 2.1728.
Still doesn't change,
Pardon?
doesn't change.
What doesn't change?
Well, I mean, that's what it is, you have on here.
Right, that's what it
Yeah.
is, yes. We are approximately 9 cents higher on the residential rate. Than we were last year.
Yeah.
So what I need a motion and a vote for is just for the municipal of the 8.8230. We have no choice but to take the non-res and the res education.
So that's the rounded up number.
That's the round, it is
Yeah.
0.8230.
You want that in the motion or just
Yes.
in number?
No,
Put it in the motion.
please.
That's, somebody want to make a motion that we, round up the tax rate to 0.8230. We have a second? Yeah, second. What, go ahead.
What if you don't round it up? What's the difference?
I haven't really, it's minute, it's, I mean, you figure a penny is $15,000, so you're not doing. You might be going 30, if that,
It just makes it easier to round it up.
it does.
The tax bills come out even and.
And you never know, there could be an errors in omission in listers, there could be other errors that were made, and if you don't have any type of. I mean, we're not asking for anything really extra or planning to have extra cash on hand, it just is for errors or over budgeting. And it makes it easier in the accounting.
Then you traditionally would,
We have
this level you've done.
Yeah, the last 6, 7 years that I've been on board. we've always
only
had-
once since I've been here, did they not?
Yeah,
Okay.
do we have a second, please, motion, anyone?
Second.
And second. Any other discussion on tax rate? Yes, Suzanne?
Jim, would you refresh our memory about the year-over-year difference between this tax rate and also the total?
So last year,
And the year-over-year municipal and then for the total, please.
okay, so you mean the municipal grand list?
The municipal, yeah.
Or the total we needed
Yeah,
to,
the point
to raise.
8230, what does that represent year over year, and then what is the total plus education?
I'm not sure what you're talking about. This is our total,
This rate right here, what was that last year?
yeah, that's what I was gonna check. Or 9 cents. I handed somebody out.
I think it's here.
Like 2324.
You can get it out to us later, that's fine.
I have a picture. I gave it to Kathy by mistake, because I had it ready. So last year. The non-resident total tax rate was 2.1401. And the resident was 2.0839. Okay? This is the increase. This is this year.
Okay.
Sorry, Kathy, I gave you the wrong.
I know, it's trying to say. That's last year.
Anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, any other questions? Kathy?
Hardy, what's the education on yield?
Might have to talk louder.
Kathy,
Hardy, you still on?
Hardy, Kathy wants to know what the educational yield is.
Yield was for this year was $9,843. This tax rate is about 1.2 cents less than it was last year for the homestead on the education rate, which is exactly what I had predicted.
That answer your question? Any other questions? If not, all in favor of, rounding up the number to 0.8230?
Right.
Opposed? Any opposed? No, okay, all right. Okay, Ken, you got anything else?
Tax bills, now that we've set the tax rate, probably tomorrow, I'm gonna put the numbers into the computer. By Monday, I'm going to start printing them and sending them off in the mail. Probably by Tuesday of next week. And first tax payment due will be August 15th. I've gotten a letter already from Sullivan Powers, our audit. My to-do list of 37 items. And so I will be starting the audit. I just ended the fiscal year this morning and I've already got the audit ready, started. That's it. Yeah. That's all I have.
Any questions?
Until, we're gonna bring, oh, we didn't put it on the agenda. Line of credit.
Next meeting.
Next week.
I wanted to talk about it.
Go ahead.
Because I have to get some permission. And I didn't find this out, that's why until Friday night. I had a conversation with both Sullivan Powers and then with Robin from our community bank on a line of credit for the flood. Our line of credit deadline is July 17th, so if we had borrowed anything up until July 17th, it would be due on July 17th. I've not had to borrow anything yet. That being said, I'm probably going to have to borrow. We've spent a total of $794,459. We've only gotten back $287,519 from FEMA. So we're still in need of the $506,939. I've been able to squeak by, but we have a truck that's squeaking in here pretty soon. We have a loader that we're gonna be having to pay for also. I've contacted the bank and what they can do for us is, even though our line of credit ends July 17th, they can ask for an extension of 150 days. But we can't have the same rate that the federal government mandated all flood at 2.99. That ends July 17th. We will now pick up the new rate of between 5.75 and 6%. And that's not even concrete because she can't give me a concrete figure until the time comes. So when, well, even if I borrow today and I borrow 400,000, it's due by July 17th at 2.99. So I'm holding off as long as possible. But at least, so what I need to ask for is permission from you guys to draw the papers, so we can at least send our loan until 150 more days. And at asking that, then she will produce the papers for you to sign on the 15th of July, because our loan comes due on the 17th. But at least we'll have 150 more days to dip into $1 million if we need to.
But that's gonna
It's
be
at a higher rate.
It's gonna get a higher rate.
It's at a higher rate.
Something we can do about it.
It'll be a higher rate no matter what. But at least it's available to us if we should need it.
Do we have any clue about any more monies coming in from the loan?
Okay.
Nothing good. Nothing good. I really don't have a good update.
It's slowly, but
We've gone back and forth on so many different projects. It's all making its way through the ladder, but they genuinely can't and won't give an update as to where we stand.
now on another note that's helpful is August 15th is our first tax payment. So we'll have money flowing in that doesn't have to go out right away. I can still probably do like I've been doing for the last year. It's just watch the books really close and maybe not have to borrow if the money is flowing in. So it's just something I keep an eye on continuously, and my best bet is to go out another 150, then we don't have to go through the whole process of setting up another line of credit.
So you want a motion for you to start with it?
Yes, to move forward on an extension.
I think we have to have a motion. I mean, I think we need to protect ourselves.
Yeah, and then the papers will be drawn up with your permission. And for me to be able to draw on it up to 150 days if need be.
So who wants to make that motion? Second, somebody?
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Vote. And just as a side note, if anybody would like to contribute to pay their taxes ahead of time or in full, it would certainly help the town. So I'm not saying we should, but it's always welcome.
Okay, so now I'm not done.
Okay.
So there's another line of credit, and this is coming down for our Walker Bridge, the big bridge project at 9 million. And it's still coming in the same. They gave us another update. I think it's 9.25 or something like that. We've paid 334,000. Our share is gonna be 900,000. And so we've already paid almost 330,000. 275,000 was saved. We had a reserve. So of course, I'm chipping away this extra that we didn't have saved. So this will be the time to start a line of credit for our bridge. And once the bridge is more complete and we know exactly what the figure is, we can turn our line of credit into a bond. And the bond has to go before the town for a vote. Line of credits don't need to go to the town, but a bond does. And that would put us for March town meeting to have it on the ballot for a bond vote and turn it into a fixed and at a decent rate for however length of time, depends on the itemization sheet. So that would be another thing that the bank would set up for us, is start a line of credit. The bills are starting to get bigger for the bridge. The last one was 77,000, so they're coming in heavy right now.
What do you estimate the bond would be figure?
For an interest rate, it all depends on the market. No idea, and everything in the bond, you can only receive bonds twice a year. So there's a lot of time constraints as to when you apply. You have to have the bond counsel, which we've already ventured into a bond counsel and bonded with him. He would walk us through the timetables, because you've got to follow the timetables, and then he applies for us to the bond bank, and we get approved by the bond bank.
I guess what I was asking was, what is the amount of the bond gonna be, is that an unknown?
We're probably gonna be looking at 625,000 for the bond. As long as the bridge comes in at what they're saying, maybe it'll be less, the bridge, but chances are.
I don't think so.
They're thinking like maybe it'll probably be more because the contingents in there. So right now, and that's why we don't want a bond right now, because we need to know the exact amount for a bond amount. Because you don't want to go back to the voters and re-bond. And you only get, and when you bond for that dollar amount. So if I were to bond now and say, we're gonna need 700 and it only came in at 600, too bad you bonded for the 700.
So do you want us to do a motion for this?
We're hoping to start a line of credit for the Walker Bridge with an anticipated bond.
Somebody want to make that motion? Don't be afraid, you gotta do it. You know, Kathy, I know you don't like it, nobody wants it, but you don't have a choice, you gotta pay for the bridge, it's not gonna be free.
Well, any donations out there?
you have a second?
Second.
Okay, John seconded. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. You have any more goodies now?
I'm done. I impressed you enough.
Nothing on the cemetery, the town is gonna fix the fence. I don't know about personnel has anything.
I'll be meeting with Colby on his reviews that he's done, and we can set a meeting up for a review with, morning.
Wastewater, nothing, but we did call the commissioner, we did not get an answer. And we have no response from Loretta. Emery, sorry. I don't know why I did that. So right now the project just sits there. There's no direction, either way. We did get communication from Ty and Bond and urged them to get the 90% report done ASAP. So we're waiting on that. Is there any flood update? The bills are here, but do you have anything more?
The only thing I don't really have an update, other than we are answering our questions as they come in. Which hasn't been a lot so far, so that's good.
Okay, we have the James plumbing and heating thing. What's this on the contract?
Yeah, so that's what I sent you all, a few days ago, I think. So we get a yearly contract and we have been working off of the credit and we still have a credit of $2,555. So I put this on the agenda just to have some discussion. Do we continue working off of that credit amount? Just for some context, we spent just under $1,000 for oil last fiscal year. And the year before that was $4,300, but that was when we were using primarily the oil.
That's why they upstairs.
Yeah.
I'd like to have discussion later on because we're running the boiler just to make hot water. And we need to install an Insta-Hot for the bathroom that only turns the faucet on. And if you think about it, if you loan the legislation that just got passed by the House and the Senate, is that the oil is going to go up about 70 cents a gallon. And it's going to continue to go up because they're going to put the blame of the floods on the oil companies and whatever. So I don't think you would want to be in oil. I don't think we should sign a contract. I think we should have a study. If you want to keep the furnace as a backup, is to come up with a new one that doesn't burn 5,000 gallons an hour. Because that thing, it's what it does. It's just an old furnace. And really, the only thing we're doing with it is making hot water.
Well, we talked about things that hot.
Yeah, and we never followed through, so
Years
I
ago.
think we should take a look at that again. And let the committee for the House take a look at it and make some recommendations.
I understand it, but you gotta understand, James did talk about, because of the furnace hot water system. If you shut that down, you gotta drain the whole system. You gotta figure out what the cost is gonna be if you're gonna go into some other kind of supplemental heat. When it gets really cold and the heat pumps don't, aren't as efficient when it's really, really cold. I'm talking below zero stuff.
Not only that, our heat pumps are not hooked to our generator right now, so when there is no
Yeah,
power.
that has to get done.
But, when we talked with Tony, which we could bring in someone else too, you know, it is a very old boiler. And what the boiler is doing is just maintaining the pipes, like Kathy said, and our hot water. But I don't think the cost of replacing it is gonna justify a savings. Right now, we're pretty low, like that $1,000. And my suggestion is not to prepay like we've done. It's not a pre-buy, so we're not locked into a rate. We're only prepaying and they're working off of our credit. it's kind of just like a courtesy, easy way to do bookkeeping, but we're not locked into their rate. So I would just budget 1,000 or 2,000 in the budget this upcoming year and work off the credit and 2,000 and do it by the time, every time they deliver, that's all. Which is only like 3 or 4 times this year, I think maybe 2, we have 2 deliveries.
One thing that is troubling me about this contract is that we used 240 gallons last year. They're basing this contract on the usage of 1,170 gallons, which to me is nuts, but maybe I'm nuts. So then there's this credit, so our money is sitting in their bank. And it seems to me that our money
Exactly.
should be sitting in the bank.
Exactly, and that's
So
why
I would ask them to revise this to 240, or not 240, let's round up all 300 or something, and.
I wouldn't even do a contract and pay it on a delivery basis. Just put it in our budget and just leave it at a delivery basis.
My guess is that they would actually, at least this happened with us, that they would adjust the contract to a lower gallon. A lower gallon amount each month that you're paying for, just say it was 300. And keep you at this $3.89 rate for the year regardless. It's the way typically budgets work. I don't know, I still think a budget plan
But
makes
you
sense,
see,
especially if you think the rate's gonna go.
but it does state in there, it doesn't lock you into that rate.
No, it doesn't lock me into the rate, so.
Right, it can go lower, but it can't go higher.
Exactly, but I don't think they'll give us that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we can't lock into
That's
a rate.
sad, there's $2,500 that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just do nothing.
Just look up the 25 and then whatever's in that budget.
But I would have, I think the committee needs to look at the long terms and see what we should be doing. If we do nothing else, just put the Instahot for the hot water in the bathroom. I mean, that's very inexpensive. That's,
No, that's, do you think
you have the
something
power,
about
you
this?
have 200 amps, so you do it.
Should I have a motion to continue to work off this, right?
Somebody will make that motion, second? Second. Any other discussion?
I guess my point was that we wouldn't work it off, they refund us.
Well,
No, we could just work it off.
Okay, I was just saying that we rather,
I mean,
maybe
if
25.
you guys want it, I'm sure we can probably request our money back.
I mean, that's what I've done in the past. They said, oh, you have money from last.
well, you can amend that motion if you want the money back, and then we just work off.
Then you just pay the bill when it comes in, and they're not holding money if we pay the bills it comes in. It's just,
As long as the rate is.
as long as the rate doesn't change.
How much do we use last year? How many dollars?
996.
So,
And they had 2,500.
In our fiscal year, okay, so I'm not really sure, are they going by calendar year, or are they going by fiscal, I'm going by fiscal.
but it was saying that they have almost 2 years of fuel.
They got
Is
a
it-
lot of money
is
for a while. And maybe that makes sense.
And I believe the Instacart, when we looked at it, was like under $250.
Yeah, it's very small. We had an electrician to get up. Well, you wanna amend the motion, or you wanna keep the motion as it is?
I would, I'd have a motion to take money back, but I would certainly defer to Kim, she has much more experience, that's.
I'd like to see it stay as it is.
Okay.
I mean, it's not that much
Doesn't
that they've
matter.
got, at one time it was the 7 and we were using it up, but I think the 2,100. I mean, that was just, that they got, it's not really something. Bookkeeping.
No contract.
No contract.
Yes, okay. So the motion says no contract this year.
But to continue to work off the
Yes.
Which they would do it.
Right.
Okay. So all in favor of that, say aye. Opposed? Okay. Fire escape.
Joe, can I ask just one question?
Go ahead.
My experience with Instahot is that it provides boiling water. Is the temperature adjustable to?
They're all, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
No, you're thinking about something you haven't changed with the heat. This is an electrical propane And you can adjust it to 100 degrees, 120 degrees, whatever you want. Yeah, I already know, but we don't have gas here, so you can't use that. Okay, it's in your hands,
I hope you all had a chance to look at that
Good.
proposal. Essentially, I met with a contractor last fall. About doing the fire escape stairs, putting a roof over it and doing a metal structure, so. It would last a lot longer and we wouldn't have to pay for snow removal in the winter with the roof on it. However, he said because it's a public building and there's a lot of state requirements and permits that would need to be. You know, that you would need throughout the process, he recommended that we get an engineer to do that. So I reached out to this company who did the engineering for the elevator. And that's their proposal, $10,575 to do the site visit, the design. Have the drawings stamped and ready for building permits, bid the project out, and for the contractor to perform the work. And then that would also include meetings to go over everything. So. This is a proposal, I don't know if you have questions or.
Well, are there any grants available for this?
Uh,
I mean, I don't think we have the money. We don't have the money.
it was built into the capital budget, but as we know, that's needed.
Well, yeah, but I mean, it is a reserve. I think you have what, 11,000 in the capital?
I don't know it all off the top of my head, but
I
I know there was none set aside in capital budget for that.
well, the work for building renovations, and we could use it for that, and then this upcoming year. Do we have to get more than just one proposal, or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
You sure? Because it's over $5,000.
I checked the bill and I also looked at the procurement policy and he said that it's pretty specialized. I can look at it again and just make sure we're not, you know, there's not fine print there, but.
And this is something that we've not been in compliance for a while, and we are now
No.
using these in public buildings. It needs to be done. That was our 5-year plan, part of it.
I thought this proposal was 32,000.
It says 10,950.
Yeah,
I think we estimated
the
30
estimate was 32,000 to complete it.
for the whole site.
Yeah, I know, but it's 32,000 plus this 10. For an engineering study?
Honestly, I think I did like 20,000 for construction and then 10,000 for engineering, but again, that was a year ago, so I don't.
Do we have time on this contract? I mean, do we have to decide it tonight or?
No, it's just something that has been on the radar for. a while.
Right, I'm saying it's something that we could,
I did ask about time frame because if this is gonna run into the winter, he said. That they're currently booking these projects into August. But they could be ready for the bidding process in mid-October. So depending on if the contractor is available and ready to do the work. There's potential that the project could be completed before the winter. It may also have to be pushed off until the spring.
I don't know where the money's gonna come from.
And that's fine, it was just after research it.
I guess my question is, where, you know, it's July 1st. Before you know it, it's gonna be October, we're gonna start doing budgets. By that time, we should have money in.
Sure.
We should be back to kind of normal, and we should have all kind of stuff, and then maybe we can.
And we can
look at that.
revisit this then.
Revisit it then.
Didn't you ask another engineer and they never got back to you?
I did.
Bill.
Yes, I did, and I never heard back from him. I met with him on site in October of last year, and then I tried so many times to reach back out.
Are those area engineers to take this on?
I asked Everett Hammond, because I met with him about another project, and he recommended this company, and then Stevens and Associates, who we've been working with through the flood. And that's been a little rocky, so.
I think what I would ask is that we're certainly interested, things are a little tight, can we revisit this thing back in October? And,
If that's what the board wants to do,
I
I'm
mean, I don't know, unless you had ups off, we don't have to go.
I mean, we have enough to pay an engineer. But we haven't budgeted for the actual fire station that we do in October, so are we committed to starting the process as soon as we sign this?
Well, that's what, I'm assuming that he said they'd be ready to bid in October, so that,
that's clear.
so we probably wouldn't have construction.
But there's
till spring.
potential that they could draw up the plans and then we could delay the bidding
Yeah.
until we have the plan. I'd have to ask those questions, so I didn't.
You have a question?
I'm just wondering, if for my home or for another building, I consider not covering it and just keep shoveling. Is that a way to save money on the project, so that it's not covered?
We have to cover it. I
You
think.
have to, yeah, we're not compliant,
Well, that's-
it needs to,
Yeah.
yeah, to public building. So it's supposed to be covered.
Yeah.
I guess the concern is that we only have one.
Well, why don't you find out and see what they are, and we can do with this next meeting.
Okay, can you be clear about what I need to do?
Just asking, how long will that hold the price, can we sign this contract, and then, you know, September or something, and we have money come in for FEMA, because the money is in the capital budget, correct?
For this amount, there's
Yeah.
11, I think.
But we don't have.
We don't have
money.
anything else, and that would be something we would want to budget for 2020.
Right, and you certainly don't want to borrow money at 5% either, so.
In September, and we can revisit this conversation too, but Anna mentioned concerns about not having more than one proposal. At that time, maybe we should look into getting more numbers. Just something to grow.
Well, if you can find another engineer, fine.
That's been tricky.
I don't know how, you know, just practically sounds. I mean, the policy says 5,000 over, we have to bid it out.
But it also makes exceptions for
Yeah.
specialized services.
Because of the historical buildings, is there any other possibilities for grant or for this?
I haven't seen any funding that I'm doing to.
Are we okay with this? You want to continue to discuss it? Anyway? Hey, it's been great.
Yeah, I think
All right, workers' comp, this has been an issue. And I mean, you might not know, what maybe you do, but, any worker that doesn't have workers' compensation, you have to pay a fee. John has come up with, we researched it with the attorney, and we researched it with, VLCT, or the insurance company. And this is what, I think, this is what we need to do, so.
Would you read that motion?
Yeah. A potential motion is for the select board to review any projects and any potential hired contractor who does not carry their own workers' compensation policy for any project under $5,000. And that $5,000 number came from our procurement policy, as you said, because we have to bid out projects
Right.
higher than. Did that capture it as you thought?
Yeah, because the problem is that we're being penalized to do it. There was another way, the attorney said, if there was an LLC, but that doesn't really protect us, because if there was an injury, our insurance company would still have to pay. So the only way to avoid it, you don't want to get into a workers' compensation situation. Ken can tell you about that one.
Yeah.
So I think we have to amend, I think we should pass this motion.
This doesn't, I don't think you're gonna spend $1,000 a year. It covers a feeding person and somebody may have a beaver problem or something like that. That's what it's for. Anything else, you're gonna have somebody that has purpose.
No, I agree with this.
I agree with it, thank you. So if that's the case, John, you made the motion, you want to?
Well, wait for somebody else to second, so.
Yeah, well, you made it,
A second.
someone have a second?
Second, it's on.
Okay. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. Against? Okay. Any other business? Okay, I do. At the next select board meeting, our attorney, is going to be here to talk about the Airbnb regulations. So if anybody thinks we should pass it along, we have a question and answer session. He will guide us, into this nightmare. So just put that into your, calendar.
If that's great news, I'm gonna ask you about that, and I'm just wondering if you could get us some information in advance, I would need something there.
I don't know, Morgan, you spoke he has our agreement. So I think that's what he's gonna talk about. I don't think there's anything else.
Are you looking for the draft ordinance that?
And whatever revision he would recommend, if any.
I can ask him.
Yeah, I don't know if there's gonna be any revisions, but, he's gonna be here to talk about it. And what we should or should not do. Any public comment? No? When make the next meeting is July 15th. Here at 6 o'clock, and then just pass it along, and we will have, the lawyer here to talk about the issues. The next meeting will be, on the 15th, a motion to adjourn. And I guess we're gonna have a public hearing, or a hearing, at some point for dogs, so.
Is that next time?
I don't know when I can talk to, Ashley, and we're gonna have to set it up.
He's gonna send it away.
Huh?
He's gonna send
Yeah,
it.
he's gonna see us in his letter.
Hey,
Can we get that motion to adjourn?
Yeah.